Let's see. I call to order the January 21st, 2026 meeting of the Electricity as Vehicle Fuel Working Group. Okay, let me just start over. I'm sorry, I just had Danny and I are trying to get organized up here in terms of process. So I'm even going to gavel it again. Good morning, everybody. I call to order the January 21st, 2026 meeting of the Electricity as Vehicle Fuel Working Group. A quorum is present, so we'll get started. Has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes from our previous meeting? And are there any changes or motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Thank you. There's been a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, then the motion prevails and the minutes are approved. All right. So what we're going to do today, Danny and I were just talking about this. I think it would be great if we could get through all of the recommendations today. Now, granted, we only have 2 hours. Danny,
As
many as we can. Danny has kind of combined them. Some of you responded to the poll that we sent out. Can't really share that information as a vote because it's not really public, but what we will do, so be prepared, is Danny has combined them and I'm going to walk through them and I will ask if the people or person who submitted them would like to offer up any additional insight or color commentary, whatever they want to do, we'll let you do that. So I think we can get through all of them today. I do. I'm pretty good at keeping members in line. And so we'll see how far we get, because what I would like to be able to do is hand off what we get done to Austin and Danny. They will assemble a draft report. I'd like to send that out to everybody for review. And then optimally, we have one more meeting where we're able to vote, reach consensus, whatever we do on that final report. So that's my goal for the day. And so we're lucky we don't have quite everybody here, so maybe we won't have as long of discussion as we normally would. But with that, I think we'll get started. So I will go one by one through, and some of these are combined to be sure. And then, just a minute, John, and then we'll ask for a roll call on each one. John, do you have a question?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm wondering if we could be aware of who's participating
Oh,
remotely.
yeah, thank you. I forgot about that. Austin will read who's online.
Representative Murphy's online. Jeremy Neek, Gary Hansen, Caroline Berninger, Steve Berthal, and Justin Emmerich are online.
All right. And again, as I call on you or as you offer up feedback, remember to introduce yourself, even if I call on you by name. Introduce yourself and then state where you're from. So, or the stakeholder that you represent. All right, so let's dive in. I'm going to go off Danny's notes and some of the summary. I'm happy to relate some of this in terms of general feedback, but again, we didn't necessarily vote, or, that was really just for us to gauge interest in each of the recommendations. Danny, how many recommendations do we have? Do you remember? Well, actually, I can look. You should have a copy of all of them. Oh, something else I want to say. So loud and clear, we have been getting letters of support for different initiatives and recommendations. And I want to encourage that from your constituents or from constituencies, I should say. We will include those letters in the appendix or the appendix of the report. So if your group or the people that you represent want to write a letter outlining deeper information about a specific recommendation, please send those in. We really appreciate hearing from you. Okay? So with that, what?
38 recommendations.
We have 38 recommendations, so. And, okay, and we won't go past 11, so don't get stressed out like we're going to be here all day. All right? All right, let's go. So the first recommendation has been, is one of mine, but I'm going to ask Jeremy from the Department of Revenue. Is Jeremy here? Oh, Jeremy's online. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Jeremy from the Department of Revenue to talk about this as, after I introduce it. So Jeremy, if you don't mind that. So the first one is the legislature should establish the required federal purchase exemption for electricity sold as vehicle fuel to federally owned vehicles. Jeremy, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Currently, no, because they're going to be exempt no matter what. It's just would be nice to have it in statute, so it's clearly stated that they're exempt from the EV tax.
Okay, any comment or feedback on that one? All right, do we have to take a roll call on every one of these? Oh, good heavens. All right, Senator Howe.
Hey, Madam Chair, is there any chance that, and I'm sorry, I was a few minutes late. Is there a chance that I'd like to actually read the piece of the Constitution and kind of state, I believe that we should keep that in mind as we go forward, is where we're at with the Constitution and how that affects what the direction we should be going.
So Senator Howe, do you mean in terms of the specific statute that this is, any of our recommendations might impact? Is that what you're saying?
Under Section 10 of the Constitution. 14.
Okay,
Constitution is Section 10, unless it's changed since I looked it up.
okay, so your point, but Senator Howe, how would we implement that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I just wanted to read that piece.
Oh, you want to read it out loud
And-
right now? Oh, certainly, absolutely.
So
Go ahead.
Section 10 of the state constitution says the taxation of motor fuel. The legislature may levy an excise tax on any means or substance used for propelling vehicles on the public highways of this state or on the business of selling it. The proceeds of that tax shall be paid into the HUTD, the Highway Tax Distribution Fund. And I believe this task force would do well by adhering to our Constitution and treating all fuels in a similar manner, as we have no idea what the next fuel on the horizon may be.
Mhm.
And I believe that what that does for us is that, one, it's kind of tells us that all fuels should be taxed in a similar fashion with an excise tax, without regard to where that fuel lies in the marketplace. And that says, by any means or substance that propels a motor vehicle on our state highways. And that it places that tax into the Highway Transportation Distribution Fund. And I think that's key, because that's constitutionally dedicated funds
Mhm.
for our highways. And then if we know that keeping the cost of collecting and administering that tax must be kept as low as possible. Otherwise, we waste it. And I think if we keep those three things in mind, when we consider this, I think we'll do well. Because if we start considering other pieces, I think we cloud how we're going to get to a good answer at the end of this. That's all I wanted to say as we start this.
Okay, excellent. Understood. Somebody have any feedback? Go ahead, Senator, or Representative Elkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Constitution, that section of the Constitution was written with petroleum fuels based in mind, because that was the only way to propel a vehicle at the time that it was written. But we're in a different world now. It could be hydrogen. It could be any number of different fuels where it's just not practical the amount to measure the amount that's going into a vehicle. So while, things like a tax on mileage, aren't really discussed in that constitutional section, doesn't mean that we can't do them if we can do them cost effectively, and that we can't legislatively dedicate them to the Highway Trust Fund. But I would also posit that, at some point here with all of the advances in technology, it may be time for us to go back and revisit that and rewrite that amendment.
But I
Okay.
believe that the Constitution basically lays that out for us, what we can do. And I think if we don't adhere to that, I think there's possible challenges, and I don't think we want to go down that road. I think we need to adhere to the Constitution because that's the framework that we have to work with.
Yes, I hear both of you and I understand what you're saying. Senator Howe, I fully support taxing electricity as a fuel because it is a fuel. I think right now, one of our challenges as a working group is how to quantify the fuel. We've talked and we've heard from several testifiers that technology right now doesn't exist for us to quantify all of that fuel. I think I mentioned that I actually explored this a little bit with the Dean of Engineering at the university to figure out what would be required even to monitor the amount of electricity that goes into a vehicle from a home charging station. We're just not there technologically, but I absolutely fully support what you're saying. I think one of our challenges as we move forward and as we look at these 38 recommendations, Senator Howe, you didn't hear, but we have combined a few of them. So we're not going to be able to vote on everyone, or we're not going to vote on each one individually. But I think one of the challenges is what do we do in the meantime until we can figure out how to quantify that electricity, or until we change the Constitution, because that's the Constitution. What do we do? As a road advocate, and I know Senator Howe and Representative Elkins share my value of our roadway system, we got to figure out a way to continue to fund it. And so that's our challenge before us. But thanks for bringing that forward. I totally concur that we have the duty and the right and the ability to tax the fuel, regardless of what the fuel is. The implementation is the tricky part. So there's also some ramifications that come about. As I just read the first one, there's some things that I think it's responsible for our group to address as we move forward into this. So something to remind everyone of, stating the obvious, we're not going to come up with one bill from this group. We may come up with 10 or 15 or 3 or whatever we decide, but these recommendations will guide our activities in the next session and the ones beyond. So thanks for reading that, Senator, and we'll include that as part of our report for sure. All right, so I laid out the first recommendation that was proposed, and
It'll be, so
ahead,
members,
Danny.
we're gonna try to share the recommendation form in the packet in front of you. This first
Everybody's
one
got
is
it.
labeled as Senator Johnson Stewart -1. So we're gonna try to, so that you know where that's coming from.
you know what we're
We'll
voting
put it
on.
On the Microsoft form as well. So-
Okay, well, that might be a little challenging. Well, how would they find, are these like by, oh yeah, they're in alphabetical order. They're
And I
there.
hope you'll bear with us, but it's a challenge to try to combine some of them so that we
Yep.
don't come back to the same topic and that we can sort of do them by category as well. So
Yep.
bear with us to try to organize our way through this here.
All right, so I think now we can take a roll.
So take a look at your agenda and move the,
It says standard motion. Is there a motion to adopt the recommendation Johnson Stewart -1? Is there a motion? I move.
Chair, I'm still confused about where I look for this.
So unfortunately, we don't have page numbers, but if you look in the upper right, you'll see everybody's name. And they are organized by last name. So mine is under Johnson Stewart. After Elkins, after, how did I lose it? Yes? Yeah, go ahead.
Members, you will find it on the third page of the packet.
Third page. No, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking at.
I'm in the wrong version. Sorry. Well, this is the one that was in front of me when I sat down.
I think they're in alphabetical order by.
I believe this is the packet that's categorized, so they're not in alphabetical order by last name. They're in different categories. This one is on the second full page, on the back of the second full page.
I have this one. Oh, I get it. Haha, sorry. Yeah, it is. Okay, at this rate, we will be done by Thursday. So it's on the third page. Yes. Okay. So I have moved that this be adopted. And then we don't need a second or anything. Okay, so then staff will take the roll.
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Aye.
Vice Chair Elkins, Anjali Baines,
Aye.
Steve Berthal,
Pass.
Caroline Berninger,
Yes.
Margaret Donahoe,
Aye.
Amanda Durer,
Aye.
Justin Emmerich,
Aye.
Bentley Graves,
Oh,
Gary Hansen,
Aye.
John Houselotten, Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Tony Qualis,
Aye.
Nick Lardno,
Aye.
Representative Murphy,
Aye.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
I abstain.
James Pearson, John Pollard. Aye. Eric Rudine,
Aye.
John Thorson,
Aye.
Aurora Vatrin, Brent Wilhite,
Aye.
Peng Zhang,
Aye.
Laura Ziegler,
Aye.
all right. Austin, what do we do with those votes then?
there are 18 in favor.
Okay, 18 in favor. So then can we just move on and do the next one?
Yep.
Yep, okay. The second one, this is going to be easy to find. It's the last page of your document. And this is a letter that has been submitted by Quick Trip. Tony Quillis, would you mind going through this one? It talks about submitting receipts quarterly rather than monthly. I guess I should read it. The legislature should modify the electricity as vehicle fuel excise tax to have charging station operators submit receipts quarterly rather than monthly. Tony, do you have anything to add?
Madam Chair, in the Quick Trip letter that's in your packet, using the electricity as vehicle working group member recommendations dated January 1st, January 21, 2026. The letter asked to clarify the sales use and excise tax exemption, and then also including level 2 and level 3 chargers. But I think the proposal right now that you had just stated was to clarify the sales use and excise tax, and then also the data collection, because I think in the statute, I don't have it right in front of me right now, it specifies the 23rd of the month. And I think working with the Department of Revenue and also the other investor-owned utilities to try and clarify that, to make it with the current system that they have right now. I'm not sure if that's 6 months or yearly or how they do that.
Okay, well, the proposal is for quarterly, so that would be every 3 months. I would concur that, agreeing with Senator Howe, we want to make sure that whatever processes we put in place make sense for business and are implementable. So, is there a motion to adopt this second proposal? Yes,
Should raise one point. So
Representative Elkins.
over the weekend, I put together several additional examples like my Ford F-150 example, just so I'd have multiple data points instead of just one data point. And this, the results of that work is not in the package today, but it was posted. And what it's consistently showing, I did everything from a compact up through mid-size to a car-based SUV. And this is kind of in response to Senator Howe's request last time that I can convert my work to what would the cost per kilowatt hour be. And in all 5 of these examples, the appropriate per kilowatt hour amount comes out to be between 3 and 4 cents a kilowatt hour, not 5 cents. So I don't know what the basis for the original 5 cents per kilowatt hour was in the current legislation, but it does appear that the appropriate rate would be somewhere between 3 and 4 cents a kilowatt hour.
All right, thank you. So Representative Elkins, I appreciate all the work you did on that, and I did look at that, and now I understand the math, so I appreciate it. I think that's more, can we table that? And, well, I think that's interesting and informative, and I don't know that it impacts this second item, but certainly members, if anybody wants to look at that, I actually printed it. So as we continue down through the list, if anybody wants to take a look at that hard copy, I have it. But in the meantime, is there a motion to adopt the second recommendation, which has to do with the time period between which businesses have to submit their receipts? Does anybody have a motion for that?
Don't move, Madam Chair.
All right, Tony has a motion. So as we're taking the roll, if anybody wants to see these calcs, raise your hand and I'll be happy to bring them over to you. Austin, will you take the roll, please? Oh, I'm sorry.
Chair.
Wait, no, that's right. Okay.
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Did you get this? Yes, I.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Aye.
Anjali Baines,
Aye.
Dee Berthal, Caroline Berninger,
Aye.
Margaret Donahoe,
Aye.
Amanda Dewar,
Aye.
Justin Emmerich,
Aye.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Aye.
John Halslodden, Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Tony Quallis,
Aye.
Nick Lordno,
Abstain.
Representative Murphy,
Aye.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Abstain.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Aye.
Eric Rudin,
Abstain.
John Thorson,
Aye.
or Aurora Vatran, Brett Wilhite,
Abstain.
Peng Zhang, Laura Ziegler.
Aye.
Okay, the motion prevails with 14 aye votes. Thank you. As we continue, I do want to also point out that there's some trucking industry facts in your notebook. We will have some time to be reading as we're taking all the roll calls, so I think this is really helpful. The third recommendation comes from several people. Amanda Dewar, recommendation number 1, Anjali Baines, recommendation number 4, and Carolyn Berniger, recommendation number 2, and it is to repeal the 5 cent per kilowatt tax. So Amanda, Anjali, or Carolyn, would you like to further expand on your recommendation?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Anjali Baines with Fresh Energy. I think we've had this discussion in the past, and similar to Senator Howe's point about wanting to treat fuels used to power vehicles similarly. Right now, because of the electric vehicle surcharge paid at the paid annually and the sales and use tax on electricity, if we add the public charging tax is essentially adding a triple taxation for fuels used to power electric vehicles. So and it's hard to administrate. So we thought we should repeal that. There's also the inequitable impacts of public charging, which I know we touched upon here. A lot of people use a 20-80% in terms of 20% of charging happens at public chargers and 80% happens at home. And that is largely true for those who have single family homes. But for those who are renters and multifamilies, the access to home charging is about half of that for single family homeowners. So there's a disproportionate amount of renters and multifamily residents who rely on public charging. And at our last meeting, we actually heard from a gentleman who came in to express concern about public charging for his brother who lives in a multifamily residence. So we really think the public charging tax, while we understand the motivation, can be replaced by the mileage-based user fee, which is easier to administrate and we think is a little bit more fair. And then we can repeal the public charging tax to avoid those inequitable impacts, again, on renters and multifamily residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Anjali. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yep, Amanda Dewar, Minnesota Auto Dealers Association. So our recommendation here is kind of twofold. One, due to the limited scope that the current law has, only applying to level 3 chargers, and questioning whether or not, if it's owned by a public entity or just a private entity. But second, I think our dealers, many of which are required to have these charging stations on site, have very little use of people, the general public coming up and using them. And so to be now tax collectors and remitters when it's not something that they're used to, similar to a service station like that, it seems like a lot more effort than what's actually going to be generated to the state there. And I guess third, I'd say, the biggest inhibitor to electric vehicle purchases is range anxiety, folks not feeling like they can get to where they're going without being able to charge. And I feel like having this set up a new tax structure is just going, especially absent the lack of federal infrastructure and investments coming up soon, is just going to disincentivize the build out of the network.
Thank you. Carolyn, you're online. Would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you. I'll be very brief. I would just like to add, kind of building on Anjali's point about, how we know most charging happens at home. Just want to emphasize the fact that it's very difficult to think about trying to tax electricity used in vehicles in the same way as we tax gasoline used in vehicles, being through public charging. It's just not going to be effective. It's not going to capture a lot of revenue because level 3 charging is such a small portion of all charging. So adding that on top of the other concerns that my colleagues just raised, we need to think about alternative methods that maybe get at the same idea, but are implemented in a way that makes more sense for this unique fuel and vehicle type.
Thank you, Carolyn. I would say that my concern, I hear you and I understand what you're saying. My concern is without a kilowatt hour tax, I don't understand or see how we will get any revenue from out-of-state drivers. Does anybody have a means by which we could somehow stop them at the state or figure out a similar way of how they assess tax to truckers? I just don't know how else does anybody have any insight on that? That's my main concern with eliminating the kilowatt hour tax.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Representative Elkins and then Amanda.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big issues here is just the double taxation because they're also paying sales tax. So maybe one way is that we set up a dedication of the sales tax on the electricity instead of the 5 cents as a way of tapping into that revenue. The other thing you mentioned is that what is the name of the organization that apportions the trucking gas tax, IFTA?
Yes, international fuel tax.
Yeah, so I've spoken with officials from that organization, and if if mileage-based taxes took off, they have indicated that, yeah, they would be willing to perform the same function for passenger vehicles as well.
Any other input? Oh, Amanda, I'm sorry. I forgot I said I was going to call on you.
No, and I'll say, like, in concept, I would not say that we are opposed to the per kilowatt hour tax. I just think the way that it is currently structured, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And so perhaps with, some improvements that may come later in the discussion, we can get there.
Yeah, I think acknowledging that doing each one of these one by one, there obviously is going to be some massaging and, looking at things like eliminating the sales tax, which may in fact impact this. Senator Howe, did you have
Is
something?
there a possibility to, and a different approach to eliminate the sales tax and the excise tax both going on? Is there a way to exempt electricity used as a fuel from sales tax? And
Yes.
just do the excise? Because I think that's the appropriate way to go about it, rather than get rid of the excise tax, because constitutionally, we can do an excise tax.
Right. Well, maybe we should combine this. Danny, do you know which number is the one about eliminating the sales tax? So how about if we edit item 3 to be, let's combine the Johnson Stewart number 2, which in my list is item 11, just for note taking. So item 11 is the legislature should eliminate the sales tax on electricity at public electric vehicle charging stations, combining that with, keeping that one in mind as we discuss repealing the 5 cent per kilowatt hour tax. And then I also want to draw our attention to the materials that Representative Elkins sent in the last day or so that talks about how the kilowatt hour assessment can fluctuate in order to match what we're seeing with equivalent gas taxes. And to his point, if you go through the presentation he gave us, it ranges from 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, 3.3, 3.1. So my public statement would be to say, if we don't repeal the 5 cent per kilowatt hour tax, if we keep a kilowatt hour tax, we take a look at what appropriate numbers are. I mean, I just want us to know that 5 cent may or may not be correct. But right now what's on the table is recommendation number 3, repeal the 5 cent per kilowatt hour tax. Representative Murphy, you have something to say?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My concern is that it's not going to be fair to other taxpayers who have to pay something for the use of their fuel to generate a road. So I'm in favor of leaving it. I don't really understand where the number comes from completely with Representative Elkins' comparisons. If you look at just the data that we have from Quick Trip, when he talked about the average fill, at 50 cents a kilowatt, he was getting in $35 worth of fill. If you take $35 worth of fill divided by an average per gallon gas amount, it's $2.75 is the number I used. That's 12.73 gallons at 31.8 cents is 4. And the tax that was if you're looking at the 50 cents a kilowatt, and you look at what the tax was there, it was 2. So actually, it should be closer to 6 cents a kilowatt in my calculation. So I'm with you, Senator Johnson. I would like to see a very close examination of what that is, but I'm definitely in favor of using that tax or having that tax. Otherwise, we can't be fair with people when we're charging them for the use that we're using it for. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Murphy. All right, is there a motion to adopt recommendation 3, repeal the 5 cent per kilowatt hour tax?
Madam Chair, could you
Oh,
clarify
Margaret,
the
sorry.
motion that it's just to repeal right now, we're talking
Yeah,
about.
we got a little
just
cloudy, I'm
repealing the
sorry.
5 cents. Okay, not
yeah.
sales use or Representative Elkins' proposal. It's just repeal the 5.
Correct. And Margaret, did you have comment?
Yeah, I had a question.
Margaret Donahoe from Transportation.
Sorry,
Alliance.
Margaret Donahoe with the Transportation Alliance. Some of us had also submitted recommendations to keep. So how does this work? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense to vote on this and then we're going to vote on.
That's a great point.
So, and do we get a chance to support our position? And so I'm just wondering
Well-
procedurally how this is going to work.
That's a great point because we already just illustrated in the last 5 minutes how there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to be talking about. Danny, do you have input on that?
I'd suggest, we had recommendations on either side and we're trying to move through them in an order and not just all over the place. So if you want to speak to the issue, I'd say speak now. If you want to have a vote on the recommendation that was sort of the opposite of this position and you want to move that after this, I think feel free to move.
Yeah,
that
maybe we
after
can
this.
jump to that right away.
Okay, well then I'll make an argument for my position. So I would say a few things. First of all, again, reiterating the constitutional dedication of electricity as a fuel, the fact that the legislature passed this excise tax at 5 cents a kilowatt hour. That is the legislative intent. You can compare one vehicle to another vehicle. I mean, that gets kind of subjective, which is why we generally use averages. And the average that MnDOT has come up with on an annual basis is $234 a year for the average fleet vehicle. So I think we should keep that in mind. And yes, to Representative Murphy's point, if you look at the average EV car requires 60 kilowatt hours for a full charge. Minnesota's 5 cent per kilowatt hour charge fee would cost $3 on that charge. But the state fuel tax on a full tank of gas at 15 gallons, which is the average, would be $4.77. So that's what ICE vehicles are paying versus what EV vehicles are paying. And then in the larger picture, this is not a big barrier to people purchasing EVs. Other states have this. Wisconsin has it. Iowa has it. The difference between 3 cents and 5 cents is $1, which, for someone who just purchased a $50,000 EV vehicle is hard to see as a big barrier. This is what the legislature passed. So again, it could be looked at, it could be changed, but I think our charge was to look at how to implement it. And again, I just think that this is not a big disincentive that's really motivating people. As Amanda pointed out, it's range anxiety, it's the purchase price up front. It's other factors that are motivating whether or not people purchase an EV, and whether it's a surcharge or a per kilowatt hour fee or whatever it is, that's not what's driving people's behavior. So if that's the goal we want, I think, again, we should be looking at other ways to encourage people and not worry if it's 3 cents or 5 cents or $1 here or $1 there. Because I just think we should keep what the legislature passed.
Thank you, Margaret. Danny has moved around the recommendation, so I'm going to give you a preview. We have on the table right now, repeal the 5 cent per kilowatt hour tax. The next one we're going to talk about is item 4, keep the excise tax on EV charging stations at the rate of 5 cents. So we're going to vote on one, then we'll vote on the next. And then the next one is John Pollard's recommendation to increase the kilowatt hour tax at the rate of inflation. So those are the next 3 we have coming up. And I think it's appropriate for us to vote on each 3. Okay. However, let's talk about the first 2 together. So first we'll be voting to repeal it, then we'll be voting to keep it. All right. Any other input on those 2? The one we're voting on now is to repeal the 5 cent per kilowatt hour tax. Anjali?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. So to Margaret's point, the concern that we had raised earlier is it is not an equal impact. And those who rely on public charging, who are apartment residents, multifamily residents, renters, as well as people who drive further distances, so rural drivers, and then also rideshare drivers who have electric vehicles, they're relying on public charging. And to them, public charging on average is about 48 cents per kilowatt hour. And the average residential electricity rate in Minnesota is about 16 cents per kilowatt hour. And if you're on an EV specific radius, even cheaper than that. So there's already a huge 3 times price difference between what those who rely on public chargers need to pay versus those who have access to home charging. And there was actually a survey that Consumer Reports did that I can share after that showed that those who do not have access to at-home charging and were considering buying an EV, 50% said having free public charging would be a major factor in making that decision. So again, for those who don't have access to at-home charging, the cost of public charging is a big factor in whether they will go to purchase an EV. So I just wanted to make that point one final time. Thank you.
All right, Pollard. Oh, sorry, Senator.
John Pollard with the Operating Engineers on behalf of the Building Trades. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm following your point, but I think there's a parity and an equity argument to be made in which if I'm a renter or a rideshare person or anybody but driving a traditional vehicle, I'm paying the gas tax the same. So the gas tax pays the same whether you're a renter or a homeowner. And then also the fact that I understand that those people, that's a major incentive for them to get an EV because it's free fuel. And so it seems to me repealing it's not quite the right answer.
Senator Howe.
I guess I'm going to go down that line a little bit. My concern is that how do they know what it's going to cost them? They just know what's going to cost them. They've never, because apparently they don't own a VEV now. So I think it's just that it's going to cost, to your point. The other point is unless I think this would give them some idea on how much it will cost them. So it'll alleviate that fear of the unknown. And I think it's that fear of the unknown that prevents them from going into the market much more than, or it could be it's going to cost them. But at least this way they'd have some solidity, so some solid information so they could figure out exactly what that cost would be in the future.
And I would have to input that I am committed to figuring out how to charge people who are charging at home. Sorry, all you EV users. Representative Elkins.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So we've talked about how things like range anxiety are impediments to the adoption of EVs, but I think probably the biggest impediment right now, and probably the reason why 80% of EV owners charge at home is that the lack of access to charging infrastructure of any kind in most multifamily housing means that the person evaluating the purchase of an EV is looking at it and say, oh God, I'm going to have to pay, anywhere from 30 to 50 cents for the electricity itself, plus, having to find a public charger because there is no charger in the place where they live. Though the legislature has mandated that new apartment buildings, new multifamily housing have EV charging infrastructure. The vast majority of the apartment buildings that are out there right now don't have any charging. So I think personally that based on my research that the lack of access to cost-effective charging for people who live in multifamily housing is the single biggest impediment, because with new EVs, the range is such that the range anxiety is much less than when I bought my EV 9 years ago, and with a 250 mile range. Buy one now, it's got 350 or 400 miles of range, and the range anxiety is much less a factor than it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, think of the places you've lived in your life. After college, in the apartments I lived in, it would be ridiculous for me to park outside with no charger and expect my electric vehicle to start every morning. I think there's many implications that we have to address as we move forward. We're just at the beginning. So I think I'm going to cut off debate on this one. We're going to vote first on item 3, which, did anybody move to adopt this one? To repeal? Does anybody want to do that? Anjali?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
All right, John?
Madam Chair, if I may, just I guess a point of clarification. What does a vote mean in this context? I mean, does a vote mean that this issue would end up in a report?
Yep, it's in the report, the summary of these votes will be included in our report to the legislature.
Summary of the votes or the position taken from the vote?
I think the goal is to try to portray both. I mean, there's plenty of discussion, but there's also people that haven't spoken up. And so I think the intent is probably to note which ones have a majority support, and also some comment on the feedback where there was feedback or opposite positions in addition to the letters at the back of the packet.
And remember, all of these are going to be included. So we know that, that these were proposed and that they are still on the table in terms of something that was lifted during the working group meeting. Is that clear, John?
Yeah, that helps determine the meaning of the vote. If I could, as a member of the working group, I'm kind of struggling with the process we're taking here. With these with the proposals being discussed in an atomized way. There's issues. I mean, there's another proposal that says, the 5% excise tax should also include beyond the level 3 chargers, expanding that and such. And looking at the charge of the work group, says to one, provide a comprehensive analysis of electricity used as vehicle fuel infrastructure opportunities and barriers. 2, develop a roadmap with policy and funding recommendations for sustainable funding mechanisms consistent with Minnesota Constitution, Article 14, including a plan for the studied mechanisms to replace the electric vehicle surcharge instituted in the statute. Research and analyze legislation and policy made in other states to determine equitable and comprehensive fuel assessment methods for electric vehicles. It's given that the legislation that was passed imposed the 5 cent per kilowatt excise tax. It's on the beginning of the discussion. It's tough to kind of start with elimination of the tax.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the statute that has passed and it will take effect. I think the idea here is that we look at moving forward or shaping policy as the technology evolves. That's what I see as my role, as our role, and my role as a member of the group. I guess another way we could do it is say, who here, how many, or we'll do a roll call, who's in favor of repealing the tax? And then another roll call, who's in favor of keeping the 5 cent? Another roll call, who's in favor of changing the tax? This is a very, does anybody else have recommendations on how we do it aside from, or differently than what we're doing, walking through each one? Senator Howe?
Well, do we need a roll call on every one, or can we just do a voice vote? And then if it's too confusing for you to choose, then you go to a roll call? Or are you
Austin says we have to.
Are you documenting every person's vote?
Members online means we need to have roll call vote.
I'd like to weigh in. I've had my hand up, but it's not
Representative
working.
Murphy? Sure.
Yeah,
And then Preston, I'll call on you after that.
Okay, sounds
Go
good.
ahead,
Thank you, Madam
Representative.
Chair.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, for me, so 1 and 2 and 3, they're all slightly different, but 2 is dependent on 3 for me. So I think there has to be at least an acknowledgement from folks. If it's not what you want, you should be passing on it. That's what I'm going to do, because just to accept a thumbs up or a thumbs down, especially when some of these were like, well, we don't know the answer to this yet. So there isn't a black and white yet. And I think that's fair to say too. So that would be my suggestion on maybe how to get around the votes that don't have the same power. Is if there's more work to be done, I'm passing. So just, that's my only input. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Emmerich online.
I just had a comment, but you had cut off discussion. I don't have one on the necessary operation of what we're doing right now, so I can hold my comment if you're not accepting further comments right now.
No, go ahead, Justin. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just going to share that, you know, on the basic fairness that we're talking about replacing the gas tax, if we're having electric vehicle owners pay a tab fee in addition to replace the gas tax, then taxing them at an individual private charging station in the public doesn't necessarily seem fair. It seems like they're double paying that gas tax. I don't know how much out of state revenue we can calculate out of that. I don't know if there's actual numbers, but it would seem like if our goal is to replace the gas tax, we're doing it through tab fees, and having an additional excise tax doesn't meet that goal.
Thank you, Justin. Amanda, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, Amanda Dewar with the auto dealers. I just think, like, similarly to what Representative Murphy said, I think a lot of these are nuanced, that, you know, voting recommendation by recommendation. I don't know if that gets us, but like, I think like a global discussion of like, what should a per kilowatt hour tax look like? Because there's a lot of recommendation, even though I put forth the recommendation to repeal it, there are certainly recommendations in here that improve it, which get you it in a better place, that I think we should almost talk about topics like, what does this group think this ought to look like, and that be the recommendation. Because like I said earlier, I think a lot of these individual recommendations conflict with each other, and there may be parts of some that you want to incorporate into what we think is the right solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. So I've asked Danny, as we're sitting here, he's kind of grouping things. And so if you're patient, we'll try to do that. I think what we have on the table right now is 2 votes, one to repeal it, one to keep it. Now, even the 5 cent, the recommendation that several people made to keep the to keep the electric tax at 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Keep in mind, this is not like for the rest of eternity. Like, this is our recommendation to repeal it or to keep it. And I see this as, you can vote yes on both. Nobody's gonna like come to your house and tell you you're weird because you voted yes on 2 conflicting things, right? You get to vote how you want to vote, okay? So I believe those 2, I'm comfortable we can vote on those right now, okay? Then we can vote on the rest. Danny's working on, he's going to help me here, and we'll come up with the next group to talk about. Because Amanda, I think you're exactly right that some of these are nuanced, and we're not necessarily voting against one and for another. So with that, I'm going to move us forward. We have a motion to adopt recommendation 3, and you get this, that any input we have as we move forward, this is going to be a little clunky. So keep speaking up, please. So recommendation 3, which has been proposed by Anjali Bains, repeal the 5 cent per kilowatt tax. Austin, will you please take the roll on this?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
No.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Yes.
Anjali Bains,
Yes.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Yes.
Margaret Donahoe,
No.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
No.
John Houseladden,
No.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
No.
Tony Qualis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno,
No.
Representative Murphy,
No.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
No.
Eric Rudine,
No.
John Thorson,
No.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Abstain.
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler,
No.
The motion does not prevail. We have how many yeses? 5 in favor and 11 against. All right, so the next one we're going to vote on has been proposed by John Pollard, as well as others. Keep the excise tax on EV charging stations at the rate of 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Mr. Pollard, would you like to expand?
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Pollard with the operating.
We've already
engineers.
kind of talked about this a little bit, by the
I
way.
think the second part of this one was to increase at the rate of inflation.
Yep.
I think that Senator Howe laid it out correctly in that the Constitution says what it says, and this is how we fund our roads. I think the work that Representative Elkins has done is equally admirable in that he's trying to reach fairness and make sure everybody's treated the same. I think that's a laudable goal. So I appreciate the discussion. Depending upon how you do the math or what you're looking at can be complicated. The way I look at this discussion as a whole is that we're trying to fund our transportation system. And it turns out I actually believe the Department of Transportation when they say that we've got a massive funding gap over the next 20 years. And so for me, it's not just about how we're taxing or the equity involved, which are important points, but how we're funding the system. It doesn't seem to me to make much sense to have a vehicle that doesn't have a road to use. Unless it's a train or a plane or something else. And so in this particular motion, I'm moving it simply because I think, again, in the name of fairness and parity, it is current law that the current fuel tax is indexed to inflation. So I think everybody should be treated the same.
All right, any other input? We have discussed this already. So, all right, so John, do you offer up this as a motion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so now we're voting on item 4, keep the excise tax on EV charging stations at the rate of 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Austin will take the roll.
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins,
No.
Anjali Baines,
No.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
No.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Pass.
Justin Emmerich,
No.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houseladden,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Tony Qualis,
Pass.
Nick Lardino,
Pass.
Representative Murphy,
Pass.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Pass.
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler.
Yes.
Okay, the motion prevails. We have, oh, how many do we have to have? Oh, you have to have 14 for yay? Did the last one pass?
Just
All right, there's a little unclear, clarity about.
the amount in favor.
All right, how many were in favor? I think he said 8.
8 in favor,
8 in favor, how many against?
4 against.
4 against. We're just going to move on. We'll figure that out later. All right, the next one is also John Pollard's, increase the rate of charging on EV, charging, or I'm sorry, increase the, tie the excise tax on EV charging to inflation. Mr. Pollard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Pollard with the operating engineer. Same concept. It's my understanding, I'm not a technology expert in this space, but it's my understanding that the technology is there to do it for a level 2 charger. So I just think that everybody should be treated the same.
Do the
So he just added another one about little,
maintain, so move the inflation piece, then move the next. Go ahead and move the next. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
okay, so right now we're voting to increase the per kilowatt hour charge at the rate of inflation.
Okay, sorry about that.
Is that what you meant to say?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Austin, will you take the roll? So right now, wait, does anybody have any feedback on that? I didn't mean to cut off debate. So we just voted on if we should keep a kilowatt hour charge. Now we're voting on if we keep a kilowatt hour charge, we should tie it to inflation. I mean, obviously, if we don't keep the kilowatt per kilowatt hour charge, there's no tying it to inflation. So some of this has to be a little bit like if and then. Senator Howe, do you have
Thank
something?
you, Madam Chair. And, and the thing is I'm normally against tying anything to inflation, but because we tied the
Yes.
fuel tax to inflation, I think it only makes sense to make them all the same and be fair across the board in my effort. So that's my comment. Thank you.
And to John Pollard's point, we may not need this since the gas tax is already, or the fuel tax is already tied to inflation, but let's do a quick roll call just to get it on record. Austin, will you take the roll, please?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins.
No.
Anjali Baines,
No.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
No.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Pass.
Justin Emmerich,
No.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houselotten,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Tony Quellis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno,
Pass.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatron, Brett Wilhite,
Pass.
Okay, which one? This one?
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
No, we already.
Laura Ziegler.
Yes. Okay, Austin will report yays and nays.
There are 9 in favor and 4 against.
So to that point, I think what we'll do when we write up the report is we'll just report the item, how many voted in favor, how many voted against. I think that's what we'll do. And then as a working group, Austin and Danny will figure out the language around that. And that's what we'll bring the draft. We'll give you all a draft report to look at. At that time, if anybody has any objection to, the language they chose or how it's presented, that's what we'll talk about at our last meeting. All right. Okay, the next one was presented by me. It reads, the legislature should eliminate the sales tax on electricity at public electric vehicle charging stations. So I move that this be considered next. Does anybody have any comments or questions? So we're talking about eliminating sales tax at public charging stations. All right, Austin, will you take the roll on this one?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins,
I'm gonna pass on this one.
Anjali Baines,
Yes.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Yes.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houselotten,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Tony Quellis,
Yes.
Nick Lardno,
Pass.
Rhett Murphy,
Yes.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Radine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Pass.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Pass.
Peng Zhang, Laura Ziegler,
Yes.
thirteen in favor and no against.
All right, great. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Um,
can I just
Representative Elkins.
quick observation? I don't know if there's case law to the contrary, but if you look at the dictionary definitions, a sales tax is a form of excise tax. So the dedication of the existing electricity sales tax to the highway trust fund, by that definition, could be appropriate if we could measure it.
Danny, do you have feedback on that?
I guess Representative Elkins, my understanding of sales and excise taxes, certainly no tax lawyer here, is typically an excise tax is understood to be a flat rate based on the amount that is sold, whereas a sales tax is typically calculated as a percentage of the purchase price. And so those are typically how those terms are distinguished in my understanding, but that's.
All right. The next one, I will ask Anjali Baines. You had recommended delaying the implementation of a public charging tax until a threshold of EV market penetration reaches 10% of all passenger vehicles. Did you want to vote on this?
No, I think our first position is to repeal it. So
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, but I don't think we need a vote on that.
All right, did everybody hear that? So actually, there was a few members who had noted that we should hold off implementation of a public charging tax until a certain percentage of the vehicles on the road are classified as EV. And she had recommended 10%. I just asked if she wanted to vote on that. And she said, no, their first position is to repeal the tax. All right, so we're going to move on. Senator
Excuse
Howe.
me, Madam Chair. I just had a
Oh,
quick comment.
Representative Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted, when you talked about recording the ayes and the nays, I think it would also be appropriate to record the passes. I think it tells a better picture
Oh,
of
yeah.
what, so I would include those. That was my only thing.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree, Representative Murphy.
Thank
We'll
you, Madam Chair.
also include the abstains and there's one other thing too.
Absence.
Absence. Well, I think it's also important to note the absence because some people, if they don't vote, we don't want it to look like everybody in the room voted for something. So, Senator Howe.
Thank you. And I just want to lay out the concern of the delaying it until you get so much of a market share, because then when you implement it, it's a bigger shock wave to all those folks that are in the market. So I think that sets up a process that is actually going to be detrimental to those who have purchased the EV vehicle. So I've got a concern that we go down that road. So.
Heard. Okay, the next one is a little hairy, understanding that we already voted on whether the tax should be repealed. This one is if the tax is not repealed, we should broaden the standard of excise taxation to include level 2 charging stations along with level 3. John Pollard and Margaret Donahoe both proposed this. So again, this is expanding the charging stations that we impose the excise tax on to include level 2. Margaret or John, do either one of you want to speak to this?
Sure, thank you. Margaret Donahoe with the Minnesota Transportation Alliance. Again, we want to make sure that we're helping to replace the fuel tax that's not being collected. And there isn't really a great rationale from a tax perspective between level 2 and level 3. So it just seems like a fairness issue. And I guess I would also add that, some of the concerns that were brought up about the price of electricity or access to private charging versus public charging aren't going to be solved or helped by repealing this excise tax or changing it or any of those things. So again, it's not a big burden or an issue one way or the other. And this would simply make it so that it's more fair for whether or not people are going to level 2 or level 3.
All right. John, do you have anything to add? Is there any feedback or comment on this? Caroline is it Caroline or Carolyn?
Carolyn.
Right? Yeah. Carolyn
Yep,
online.
thanks.
I think
Yeah,
it's
Carolyn
Carolyn
Berninger
online.
with Drive Electric Minnesota. Just a couple points in response to that. I think if the goal is, as we've heard a few times today, is to really capture out-of-state drivers, I think it's much more likely that folks traveling through the state on a road trip or something like that are going to be utilizing level 3 charging. Level 2 takes quite a bit longer. It's not really a replacement for, filling up at a gas station. And so just want to make sure we're sort of considering the use cases. And then in addition to that, this is one of those situations where it's difficult to talk about these issues one at a time. When we're talking about, we need to replace lost gas tax revenue. We have this elevated electric vehicle annual surcharge. And so, that's quite high now for EV owners, and that is replacing the lost gas tax revenue. So Anjali spoke earlier about, this kind of triple taxation that's happening now for EV drivers. Extending the tax to level 2 charging would just make that situation even more burdensome for EV owners.
Thank you, Carolyn. I want to note that the next one that we're going to discuss is clarify the definition of public charging stations to include any station where a fee is charged and that is available to the general public. So I guess keeping in mind that's the next one that we're going to discuss. I don't know. I don't really want to combine those two because I think level 2 is different than any public station. So is there any other feedback on whether we should broaden taxes to include those that fuel charged or that electricity gained from a level 2 charging station? Any other feedback? All right, Austin, will you take the roll? Oh, somebody has to move this one. Margaret, you want to move it?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Margaret Donahoe. Austin, will you please take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Pass.
Anjali Baines,
No.
Steve Berthal, Carolyn Berninger,
No.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
No.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houseladden,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Tony Quillis,
Aye.
Nick Lardno,
Pass.
Rhett Murphy,
Yes.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Aye.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Aye.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Pass.
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler,
Aye.
Austin will report the votes.
$11 in favor, 3 against, 6 abstain.
All right, thank you. All right, the next one was proposed by Margaret Donahoe, clarify the definition of public charging stations to include any station where a fee is charged that is available to the general public. Margaret, can you explain why you think this is needed?
Sure. Margaret Donahoe with the Minnesota Transportation Alliance. I guess, we spent a lot of time early on trying to clarify public charging station. There was a lot of discussion about what that means. And it did seem like there needed to be more discussion about, charging some people versus charging other people, what's public, what's not. And so this would just kind of help clarify that if it's available to the public, then it's public. And if people are being charged, so the electricity isn't being provided for free, then that provides more of a level playing field.
Thank you for explaining that. Do you want to move the motion?
Sure.
Is there any comment or feedback? Oh, Senator Howe.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The only concern I have is there's still electricity being used as a fuel. We're just not going to charge it because they're giving it away. I think that's a mistake.
Well,
I firmly believe.
wait a minute. Isn't this is for anywhere where they're actually selling it?
But if they're going to grocery store, you can pull let's say they're going to just let you use it and you're going to plug in and the grocery store is going to give you the electricity. That's still a fuel being used on our highway.
Right.
In my opinion, it should have a fee collected on it.
But how do we collect a fee if somebody's not, how do we collect a tax if somebody's not collecting a fee? Are we mandating, do you want to mandate that everywhere there's a charging station,
I
there's a
would,
fee?
if it's up to me, every kilowatt that's being put into an EV is going to get a tax.
Okay.
That's my point. So if somebody wants to just give the fuel away, if I was going to give gas away, that still has a tax because where the bulk truck picks it up at the refinery, that's where the tax is collected, not at the pump.
Yeah, you're correct.
So to me, that is the same piece. If the electricity goes into a vehicle used on our public highway, a tax should be collected on that fuel. That's the Constitution. That's what we should get to.
Understood.
Madam Chair, Tony Quillis from Quick Trip. To Margaret's point, I support, and also to Senator Howe's point, the definition of public charging station says a location, charging station operator conducts a for-profit business using a metered system for the delivery of electric fuel. In the example we talked about, and I can't remember, you had moved us off of saying public charging station. I can't remember the term.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Came
When
up
was,
with two was, but my example was if you're going to go down and take a left-hand turn and go into a retail facility, or you're going to take a right-hand turn and go into a city hall or a county courthouse or a state park where it's free, how do you, there seems to be an unlevel playing field there of how do we, and to Senator Howe's point, if you're getting electricity, how do we get to that? And so I'm not sure how, maybe it's the changing of the public charging station, but I agree with Margaret's point of trying to get, if you're getting power out of there, whether it's the county or the city, they at one point are getting that power from somebody, a co-op, an investor-owned utility. How do we access it?
Amanda?
Yeah, well, first I'll say I like the recommendation to level the playing field, but I think, to your point, Senator Howe, if it, and Tony, I think if you were able to get the data at that level, then why wouldn't you do it for in-home charging stations as well? Like, I think that's the difference between how this is taxed. I mean, fuel is taxed at the distributor level, and it's easier to do it that way. I would love it if instead of a 5 cent per kilowatt hour, you could just, do it at the pump, and that's what the tax was. But that's not the case. But I think if you're gonna go that route where when it's being given away publicly, you have to find something else out, with the utility, what the appropriate taxation is. And if you can do it there, why can't you do it in the home?
Well, you can't do it at the home because at the home, you just have one meter that comes into the home and it doesn't differentiate between how the electricity is being used. So we don't tax electricity to power a toaster, for example. So we did look at that. If you remember, I can't remember what state it was, but they did provide us with the cost to provide a separate meter. I think it was $16 a month, wasn't it? Something like that.
That's what Excel charges right now.
Yeah, so for us to require, go down that road of requiring a separate meter at the garage, to simplify the discussion, the cost benefit wasn't really there because we did not get as enough tax to pay for the meter itself. But to your point, I understand what you're saying. I just want to clarify that. Senator Howe.
I do believe we need to leave that door open because I do believe technology is going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those meter charges will come down, but I do believe that will eventually get there because right now we sub-meter out a number of things. I mean, I think I've got on my cabin 2 or 3 different meters that makes a difference what I'm using it for. So
Right. Yeah, and what I understand is the level 3 charging that happens is just too dangerous at this point to put a separate, like a charging, the kind of thing that you would put on just a cord coming out of a house. So it's just, we're not there yet, but I agree with you. I think we're going to get there. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, John Houselot with the Trucking Association. Thank you for trying to organize a challenging conversation. I think what we're talking about right now is a fundamental principle that I think is the recommendation that I had. I'm not sure what number it was originally, but was, basically that we believe electricity should be taxed like a fuel. If you start with that assumption, all the ways you do it are going to be considered, but it gets to Senator Howe's point, it gets to Tony's point, that if we say it's a fuel and the Constitution says we must tax a fuel, then we will tax that fuel in a manner. We have to figure out the how.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's at home or whether it's at level 2 or level 3, I think that's an important, strong principle for this group to come forward with, because I think it overarches a lot of these nuances we're trying to cover. So I'm not sure when you would like to address that vote, but I think it addresses what Senator Howe is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with saying at such and such a date, we want all of this to be charged at the appropriate rate, right? We want to charge all of the electricity being used as fuel. And you set that date out there, and guess what? The market will respond and get us what we need to charge that at that point, right? Whether it's Excel, whether it's whoever, somebody's going to come up with the technology to make it, because we set a date in the future to where it's got to happen. And that's one of the things I think we need to look forward to too, is set that expectation that sometime in the future, I don't care if you use an extension cord or not to plug in, you're going to get charged for it. And at such and such a date, when that drop dead date is coming, because technology, we're going to force the market to create that technology.
Yeah, I mean, all along, I think another core value is we need to fund our roads. We need to fund our roads and bridges. So that's true. We are allowed, or we are mandated by the Constitution. That's true. But our challenge is, how do we implement that? Nick, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to clarify the constitutional provision. So it says we may levy an excise tax, not we must levy an excise
Okay,
tax.
thank you.
But if we do levy it, it has to go in the HUTD. So that's the constitutional provision.
Good to be reminded.
Madam Chair, I just have a comment, if I could.
Go ahead, Representative Murphy.
Yeah, the other thing that I think plays into this is, so we have people that are, going to hand out the free chargers. That's going to be a ploy. That's something that they do for their business. And so we're separating people too. If you have a free charger, it's just one of those benefits that you can attract your customer base, and you don't have to charge them anything for it. And so why wouldn't they, per all the other examples? And so that's not fair for businesses. They can't do that. That's just one more area. It's like a side benefit that you can offer, and it shouldn't be a benefit because somebody else is paying the bill. And so that was my only comment. So I agree with Senator Howe and most of the other comments that were just made. I think that's the ultimate goal, is we need to find out anything that goes to fuel needs to be taxed in a comparable way to what the, other road travelers are paying. So thank you.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if a grocery store offers free charging, we can still assess a tax to the grocery store, correct? John? Oh, and then Anjali, go ahead. No,
Oh, it sounded like Representative Murphy.
Representative
I
Murphy.
think that
did you
should be the goal. I mean, the goal is it's a fuel, and the fuel has there's a certain value of it that goes to the roads, and that's the part, that's the amount we're trying to retrieve. And so, yeah, I think it just makes really good sense to look for how do we attach that number to it. If the person wants to give away the power, they can't give away that benefit that we have that other people are paying for. That wouldn't be fair.
Okay,
And so I
great.
think it is important. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, John Thorson?
Madam Chair, John Thorson, Lyuna. Looking back at my notes from a November work group meeting, the confusion we kind of ran into is in different places in statute, in sort of a plain language reading, public and private were confusing. And I
Mhm.
jotted a note that as a housekeeping matter, that's something that should be addressed going forward prior to the excise tax coming into being on July 1,
Mhm.
27. Now, is that specifically addressed in Margaret's?
Margaret's recommendation. That's probably the genesis of it.
Yeah.
All right, Anjali, you wanted to say something? Oh, sorry. After Anjali, I'll get to you, Margaret.
Thank you, Chair. I know this isn't on this specific proposal, but to the points being made about electricity should be taxed as a vehicle fuel, which is the purpose of this group. I just wanted to say Fresh Energy supports that notion. And I assume that folks are saying, yes, we should tax electricity equivalent to a gas vehicle. Then if we're going to go that route, if electricity becomes a thing we charge, we supported the mileage-based user fee proposal from Representative Elkins because we thought that approximated electricity, kind of taxing electricity similar to gas tax without having to go into the technological difficulties of measuring electricity. So if we're wanting to go towards electricity and measuring that, I assume that everyone will then support a repeal of the upfront EV surcharge, which right now is a blunt instrument in replacing that. So I just wanted to make that clear. If we're going to propose that, a gas tax equivalent is applied to electricity, then the much more blunt, flat, or the EV surcharge is repealed as well. Thank you.
Well, I understand that, but I also think part of this group, we have in our, we're just recommending, we could say, we really like EVs. We're going to make it really cheap for people to drive EVs. We're going to make sure that it is more cost advantageous for people to drive EVs. So we're going to do this. Or we really like gas powered vehicles. So we're going to make sure that it is very expensive for people to drive EVs. Like we could have that recommendation. So I don't think that there's necessarily a assignment for us to be fair or to be equitable. I'm a fair person and I appreciate what you're saying, but I also think there's room in this working group for us to steer policy in a way that gets us to more equitable solutions. So I just want to say yes, and that for me, my driver, and I'll say it out loud every time, is to fund the roads. So if being fair means that we continue to have this enormous lack of funding, we know it's millions, if not billions of dollars for our roads and bridges, then we need to maybe be charging gas-powered vehicles more in addition to EVs. So that's my primary goal, not fairness, although I'm a fair person and I vote that way. But I also think that we have a couple different big picture objectives here. But I hear what you're saying, Anjali, and I appreciate your viewpoint, which is why we're glad you're here. Margaret.
Thank you. Margaret Donahoe with the Transportation Alliance. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of say, ultimately, we'd love to have this be perfect. And but we have to kind of take baby steps. And I think that's kind of been your approach too, and be practical. And what kind of technology do we have? And what can we realistically do right now? And yes, fuel is taxed at the wholesale level. So if we want it to be exactly the same, we would tax electricity at the wholesale level. I don't think anybody knows how to do that right now. So that's why we've been working with these things that are not perfect, that are challenging, that might result in some outcomes that
Inequities.
people don't necessarily like, but we're dealing with the situation we have. So until we can tax the exact amount of electricity that's being used as a fuel at the wholesale level, we're going to still have situations where there are private chargers that makes it challenging to figure out how to tax those. So I think a lot, in looking around the country at other states, that's, I think, why a lot of states are only looking at public charging stations, because it's a start, okay? And maybe eventually the technology and everything will catch up, but this is where we are right now.
Appreciated. All right, with that, Representative Elkins.
Just real quick, I'm sorry, but you know, I think that if there were a way to measure the electricity, I would be perfectly fine with that approach. I think it, you know, it's a perfect analog to the gas tax. It would be fair. It's just not practical right now and isn't going to be practical for the foreseeable future. So the best that we can come up with is some kind of proxy, some kind of approximation. And we need to figure out what is the best, you know, approximation that we can use until it's feasible to, you know, measure electricity at a level of accuracy that it can be done fairly. And I think that, you know, just as, you know, we have indexed the gas tax, I think that whatever mechanism we should come up with should be, you know, basically indexed to the gas tax. So that every time we raise the gas tax, the proxy measure of taxing EVs would go up in lockstep. And if we decide that we're not raising enough money for the roads and want to raise the gas tax, that whatever the tax mechanism for EV should go up in lockstep.
Very good, thank you.
You know, Madam Chair,
Yes.
Senator Howe here, I would love to figure out those places that the electrical companies, the power provider is giving away that power. I know they're not metering it because they're giving it away, right? There you go.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Tony Willis from Quick Trip. I support Ms. Donahou's motion and would like to make the motion to move her proposal forward, but I'd also like to amend it with Mr. Thorson's comments about the recommendation of seeking a further clarification definition between public and private chargers. So supportive of that, and then trying to figure out what that definition would be, if I can amend it somehow in there, saying supporting Ms. Donahou's motion, but amended by also seeking Mr. Thorson's clarification from previous notes that we had of trying to get a better clarification between public and private.
So this might say, clarify the definition of public charging stations, comma, for example, to include any station where a fee is charged that is available to the general public. Keeping, for example, in there as an open door for the group to further study how public might be identified. Margaret, how do you feel about that?
I would support that.
All right, so moved. In the interest of time, I think we're going to vote on this one. All right, so Austin, will you take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Aye.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Pass.
Anjali Baines,
Pass.
Steve Berthold, Caroline Berninger,
Pass.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Pass.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houseladden,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Tony Quillis,
Aye.
Nick Lardino,
Pass.
Representative Murphy,
Pass.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Radine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Pass.
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler.
Aye.
Ten in favor, 0 no's, 10 abstentions.
All right, thanks, Austin. Okay, the next one is not controversial at all. We're going to talk about road user charges. That's a joke. Okay, we have 25 minutes left in today's meeting. I want to make sure that we give Representative Elkins time to remind us of the many facts he's provided on road user charges. I want to set the stage. This item is item 27, to implement a fair mileage-based road user charge under which EV owners would pay a rate per mile tax calculated so that EV drivers would pay an amount equal to what the owner of an internal combustion engine vehicle would pay in gas taxes for a similar car driven the same number of miles. The mileage-based road user charge would be a voluntary alternative to paying the EV registration surcharge. Only odometer readings would be collected. No trip data would be collected. And before I turn it over to Representative Elkins, who I'm sure has much to say about this, I want to note that yes, we are allowed to tax electricity as a fuel, given the current state of technology and how we're able to monitor that for home charging, which occurs in 80% of the electrons that travel into a electric vehicle. I just want to pose that this may be something that we do now until better information or technology is available, but perhaps not. I'm going to hand it over to Representative Elkins.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. No, I think that's completely fair. And we've talked about this a lot, at least I have, but I just think right now, since we can't accurately measure the amount of electricity going into 80% of the EVs on the road, the one thing that we can.
Wait. Is it 80% of the charging or 80% of the vehicle?
Oh, probably about the same,
Okay,
but it's
just wanna
80%
clarify.
of the vehicles, to be clear, yeah.
Okay.
Probably more than 80% of the electricity, because the vehicles that are publicly charged probably are driven fewer miles. Yeah. The one thing that we can accurately measure as a proxy is the number of miles that the car is driven. All we have to do is electronically read the odometer readings from the car the way that Utah is doing it. Utah has proven that it's practical. They've proven that there are ways to make it cost effective. You should be able to generate a quarterly invoice based on the number of miles you've driven for about the same cost as any other utility bill. And I've been working on this problem for 15 to 20 years, and this is just the most practical, fair way to do it right now.
Okay. Any feedback? Go ahead, John.
Yes, Madam Chair, John Houseladden, Minnesota Trucking Association. Representative Elkins, you've done an excellent job of understanding the nuance and looking at other options. And so you're very thoughtful in your approach to this.
Thank you.
I do think one of our greatest concerns as an organization is securing funds that we know will be constitutionally protected, that will not be raided, that will not be redirected, that will stand up to legal challenges. And we may differ on this, Representative Elkins, but our read on this is that this mechanism would not be guaranteed. We would need another constitutional amendment to bake this in. And I think this idea, you obviously have legislation that you've advanced, it's going to advance. And if I were to look at what's needed now versus what's needed later, writing the report, I would say this is a future consideration piece. It's not a vote now, support it now piece. Because we learned a lot. It was impressive, some of the things we learned, but I think to drop consideration of trying to tax electricity on its face, the first statement is really contrary to the charge we have as a group. So I would say that. Thank you for your work, Representative Elkins, and we've talked about these things.
Yep.
Senator Howe.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Elkins. So this is the electronic available, not the stubby pencil. You got to put a device on to record that and send that in quarterly?
No, you can just, certainly any late model car, and, which includes just about every EV on the road. The manufacturers are, every car rolling off the assembly line comes with a very powerful computer that includes a cellular modem and a very accurate GPS, which is how modern vehicles, how manufacturers are recording the odometer readings. The only way I can look up the odometer reading for my car is to look at it on the app on the phone. So literally every car rolling off the assembly line now, the way that the manufacturer is measuring the odometer reading is off the GPS units in the car. And they are saving that to their data warehouses in the cloud. They all have what are called application programming interfaces, which is how your app, that your car manufacturer app talks to the manufacturer's cloud. So all you have to do is basically send a query to the manufacturer's data warehouse saying, give me the odometer reading, and that's all I want, just the odometer reading, and they'll send it back to you. And that's what Utah is doing right now.
So because it's GPS based, they can then delineate what was used in our state and what was used out of our state. So we're only charging them for what was used in our state.
You could do that, but to do that, you would have to allow the capture or turning on of what's called location services. You see that on your phone.
Yeah, I think there's some privacy concerns.
There would be privacy concerns with doing that now.
We're going to charge them from no matter where they drive. If they drive
Yep.
from here to Florida and back, they're going to pay the tax in Minnesota and every charging station they hit in whatever state collects it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
Just want to verify that.
But
that's a good point.
not at this point. I mean, but the same thing, if you buy your gasoline in Hudson, Wisconsin and drive it in Minnesota, and there's no expectation that you're going to get a refund on that gas tax.
No, but
Also
I'm not
a
paying
good
it in both
point.
states.
Huh?
He's saying he's only paying in one state. If I buy gas in Hudson,
Yeah.
I don't have to pay again for the miles I drive in Minnesota. Also a good point. There are so many good points happening right now.
Yeah, but once a critical mass of states are doing this, an organization like IFTA will parcel it out. But I wouldn't want to be doing that right now because of the privacy considerations. If all you're doing is taking somebody's odometer reading, and for just about all of us, about 98% of our driving is in the state, I don't think it's a big enough deal to worry about right now.
That is a good point. I mean, I remember in recent memory saying to my husband, I wish there was this way you could work on your computer no matter where you were. Like, remember those days? Remember? I was thinking about that the other day, just to be a little expounding here. Remember in the days when a lot of us, you go to work and the first thing you did was not turn on your computer because there wasn't one on your desk. Like, if we could think about that, I mean, to be sure, there
Your-
could
your
be a
age
time when
doesn't matter.
every state has this collaboration and
Yep.
miles are parceled out just like they are for trucks. So that is a good reminder for us that technology is going like this. So we may get to a day where it's very different, but we're talking about right now. So I know
Senator-
Representative Murphy has something to say.
Thank you. Thank you for taking us back a little bit. That was fun too. I agree. say, well, just the complexity of this, will put me on that pass level. There's just so many moving parts. I appreciate what Representative Elkins is doing. I think an easier way to look at this, if we wanted to capture that in-home use, is with the meters. I mean, I have geothermal in my house. I have a separate meter for it. So what we could do is look at an income tax credit to offset that $192 or whatever it's going to cost them. And that would just be a lot cleaner, a lot simpler, and a way for us to say, okay, the meter's not what we're charging you for, only for the electricity. But now we could say you have to have a meter, but we're going to get an income tax credit for that $192 or $200 or whatever it needs to be, so that it's covered. And now everything's really simplified. And now we're able to attach ourselves to the 80% of the charging, and that's going into cars that we're not getting a chance at. So that might be an option here, rather than looking at the mileage portion of it. And now we are just looking at what's happening in our state. We don't have to worry about where you came from. It's only where you're filling up. That's where you're getting charged.
So Representative Murphy, I was taking notes. So you mean possibly we require EV home chargers to install a separate meter, but we allow the cost of doing that as a tax credit? Is that what you're saying?
Amen. Yes.
Noted in the notes. Not voted on, but noted. Okay.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's some good discussion here. Any other feedback on the road user charge? Margaret Donahoe.
Thank you. Margaret Donahoe with the Transportation Alliance. I guess I'm just looking for a little more clarification of what we're voting on. Is this to replace the excise tax? When would it take effect? I'm assuming it's still voluntary and that people would pay either that or the surcharge, but I'm not sure what we're voting on, I guess.
Yeah, good point. Representative Elkins, do you want to clarify verbally?
Yeah,
And then we'll
verbally,
vote on that?
Just the way the current bill is written, and I'll be modifying it, but it basically, you could either pay the humongous surcharge, or you could sign up for this program exactly the way that Virginia does it. It's optional.
And then the kilowatt hour to capture revenue from out-of-state drivers. Is that just a independent issue and we're not addressing that?
I think so. I mean, that is a concern. I know in many states where a significant portion of the driving is from out-of-state drivers. If you're a place like Tennessee or Wyoming, that would be a big consideration. I just don't think it's that big a consideration for us right now.
So then the road user charge would be, or is it to replace the surcharge, to Margaret's question?
It would be an optional alternative to the surcharge. You would either pay the surcharge or you would pay the mileage fee, just like Virginia.
Okay, I'm going to read this or say this out loud. So implement a fair mileage-based road user charge under which the EV owners would either pay a rate per mile tax calculated, et cetera, Danny, help me out here. Danny, you read it.
Representative Elkins, correct me if you want a different motion, but essentially the motion put forward right now would be in support of a road user charge that is a voluntary opt-in in place of the electric vehicle surcharge. And I'll also clarify, because we had submissions, silent on the specific structure of that surcharge, and we can move to that as a separate topic. I don't want to add that into this conversation. So implement a voluntary opt-in road user charge program where you would opt out of your surcharge and opt into that program, and that this road user charge program would not collect location data, only odometer readings in order to determine your road user charge amount. Representative Elkins, how does that sound to you?
Yes, I would add to that the rate would be calculated so that an EV would end up paying an equivalent amount to what a similar gasoline-powered car would pay over the course of a year.
Is that clear to everybody? We have it on recording anyway, if it's not clear, but okay. So moved, I assume. Austin, will you take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins.
Yes.
Anjali Bains,
Yes.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Pass.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houselouden,
No.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
I'm close, but I'm not quite there yet. Nay.
You said nay.
thank you. Tony Quillis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno,
Pass.
Representative Murphy,
Pass.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Pass.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Pass.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Pass.
Hong Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler.
Pass.
Seven in favor, 2 no. 11 abstentions.
All right. As a reminder, these are recommendations that'll be in the report, not these are, recommendations. They're not group recommendations. They're recommendations that come from members of the working group. If it were so easy to say, so we'll be passing a road user charge, I mean, obviously that's ridiculous. So these are things for consideration and presentation. The next one is one that I made. Continue state support for building out a network of electric vehicle charging facilities, especially since federal funding for construction of additional charging locations will soon end. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Eric Rudine's. Mine is added to that. The legislature should provide state funding to continue the NEVI program operated by MnDOT. So I will so move that. Eric, do you want to add anything or anybody else?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Eric Radine with MnDOT. Just as was stated, federal funding is ending, at least for the time being. And so continuing to build out this network of charging stations is going to require some state investment moving forward. So that's kind of where the proposal comes from.
And I concur. So I will so move. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, maybe Mr. Radine can clarify, would this be general fund funding? Could we bond for it? Could it be in a capital investment bonding bill, or does it have to be general fund?
Madam Chair, my understanding is we could bond for it. In fact, the department put forward a request to have bond funds to support some charging stations. Fortunately, didn't make it into the governor's recommendation, but our understanding is that yes, you could bond, and so it could be general fund cash as well. We're not talking about like using highway funds or anything to build the charging station.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify that we could bond for it, that we wouldn't be wedded into having to use general fund dollars because, as you know, and Representative Elkins and Representative Murphy and Senator Howe know, if there's going to be a long line bit that we have coming up. So as long as it's clarified that we can use that in bonding. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to point out, I don't think the funding source is listed here. So as we move forward, there may be other ways to fund this. But I do appreciate what Eric said. If I could quote you saying we're not taking away from roadway funds to build out the CV network. I think there's obviously ways we can get creative and find other sources. Senator Howe?
Madam Chair, that's where my concern is whether or not this proposal allows the use of HUTDF funds to put that in. And to me, that's another leakage out of maintaining our roads that I would not be in favor of.
Yep, I purposely did not put that in here because I support that idea. I think there are other funds. There's other ways that we can build out this network. Senator Howe?
Is this in direct competition to those outfits that are out there trying to put these in on their own? I mean, does it require us to facilitate? Aren't these, when you put it in, are they not sustainable on their own?
Well, I think we heard from Quick Trip that I think they put in about 250,000 for a plus or minus $1 million charging station, and 750 came from the feds. Wasn't it about 1 to 3? Anybody else remember? I don't think that it pays for itself, Senator. I think the Quick Trip testifier mentioned that, remember, I asked him specifically, why do you invest in this? And part of the reason was just to add value and to draw customers in, but I don't think it's a winning, I don't think people make money off charging stations. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tony. Okay, I
Madam
see
Chair,
him.
you are correct.
Amanda in the back?
Yeah, no, Senator Howe, Amanda from Auto Dealers. Yeah, a lot of our OEMs require us to have them on site if we're selling vehicles, and they are quite expensive. And no, we're certainly not making money on them, and hence our opposition to the taxes, just adding to the cost of keeping them up and running.
Go ahead, Nick.
I just want to clarify the bonding comment. Nick from MMB. So we can bond only for state or locally owned. It has to be a public purpose. So we cannot do that for privately owned chargers.
Yep, you're right.
And that would still be paid for by the general fund. Eventually the debt service would be.
All right. So I think I so moved this. So Nick, Austin, will you take the vote? Or the roll, I'm sorry.
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Yes.
Anjali Baines,
Yes.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Yes.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houseladden,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Quillis,
Aye.
Nick Lardino,
Pass.
Representative Murphy,
No.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Radine,
Yes.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Pass.
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
Okay, well,
Liz
Austin,
Ziegler,
oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Laura. You poor Z last name, that probably happens to you a lot. So while Austin is counting those up, I'm just going to say we're going to vote on one, or we're going to take a roll on one more that I think is pretty easy. And then, Danny, are you going to give us a quick update?
Yeah, I think expect at least one more meeting and we'll try to get that scheduled as soon as possible. So it's on your calendars.
So what we'll do between now and then is we will send out a summary of what we took roll on today and what is left to happen. And I think we could present part of the report at the next meeting too, so that we have only, one meeting and then a short meeting after that. But in Austin, what's the roll on that?
14 in favor, 1 no, and 5 abstentions.
All right. The last one that I think we can do is one that I proposed. The legislature, and again, remember, we have a couple left to vote on. I'm just trying to get not the easy ones, but what somewhat less controversial. I propose that I move that the legislature should establish a similar task force in 5 years to study the changes to the policy landscape and available technologies at that time as they pertain to electric vehicle fuel taxes. So I'm proposing that one of our recommendations be that in 5 years, which sounds like long time, but zip zap, it's going to happen quickly. The legislature, again, propose an EV working group. And so I will so move that. Is there any discussion? Remember, as we're legislating this or putting it in our recommendations, the 5 years could become 4 years or 3 years or whatever. So, all right, no discussion. Austin, is there anybody online that wants to pipe up? Okay, Austin, will you take the roll? And then Danny will close us out.
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins.
Yes.
Anjali Baines,
Yes.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger.
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
I think she said
Yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Doer,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Bentley Graves, Gary Hansen,
Yes.
John Houseladen,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe,
No. And I'd like to discuss that after we get done here.
With
Don't-
me?
No.
Tony
Oh,
Collis,
okay.
Aye.
Nick Lardno,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Pass.
Emily Murray, Jeremy Neek,
Pass.
James Pearson, John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Rudin,
Yes.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin, Brett Wilhite,
Yes.
Hong Zhang,
Yes.
Laura Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, as Austin is tallying, Senator Howe, what feedback do you have?
You know, this is, from what I remember back in the day, this is how legislation works. And we use, and we're in such a hurry to pass things these days. We do not do the process.
Mhm.
This process is an educational process. We now are in such an immediate that we need to have instant satisfaction. We got to pass things within a year.
Mm.
That's where our problem comes in. We should be advancing legislation. We should be having these discussion with the entire legislature. We should be working this through our committee process, not in groups
Working group.
where everyone gets input. And good legislation takes years to take care of and get passed. Nothing good happens fast. And we are such on a schedule to make this a year-round legislature and to force things through in a short period of time. That's why we make mistakes.
Mm.
And I think that this is just another one of those steps in the wrong direction. And it's why we should be proposing, discussing, like Representative Elkins has been doing for 15 years. That's how the process should be done.
Mhm.
And I think these working groups and task force are a mistake.
Mm.
That's my opinion.
Well, thank you for that. I would counter that, or I would add to that, not counter. My intent is that I've said it up many times today, that we are in an evolving environment. And so my intent is just to say, maybe to appease some of the dissenting voices, that this is something that for sure we're going to have to look at again. And so that was the intent of my recommendation.
Madam Chair, I'm not saying that this wasn't valuable.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is I think it circumvents the proper process that we should be taking.
Mhm.
And that's my opinion. I think good legislation takes years in the process. And I think it's always better the longer we take. And that's where I have an issue with the road we're going down with all these working groups. And, and it short-circuited me personally, because I've got a job, I work.
Mhm.
And trying to keep a business going and do 3 working groups this interim was an overbearing situation that included my decision to depart from this institution that I so love.
Mm.
So there you go.
All right. Well, thanks. Thanks for being here. All right, Austin, what is the roll on that?
16 in favor, 1 opposed, 3 abstentions.
All right. I think in the interest of time, we will send out an email with those that we took roll on today, with those that we still have to take roll on, and then what our plan is moving forward. So with that, we're 3 minutes over, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Senator Howe, you're not running again?
Oh, I'm out. This is my last session.
Did I know that?
Last one?
I did not know that.
And there's been through.
I didn't know that.
video.
Maybe I did and I didn't pay attention.